Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and I'm finishing up the 2,200 mile road trip I decided to do with this 2023 Chevy Silverado with Duramax diesel. I took my 1962, that's behind me, C10 to Michigan and participated in the Woodward Dream Cruise. Kind of fun. I grew up in Michigan and remember a lot of people talking about Woodward Dream Cruise, and to be able to be there and have a truck kind of cruising was really cool. But let's not talk about that so much. Let's talk about this Duramax diesel. You know, in this video, let's discuss DEF usage, the diesel exhaust fluid, DEF usage, oil usage. That's been a hot topic on this engine. People debating whether it uses oil or not. We'll also talk about fuel economy, towing what I have. And then I'm gonna get back to the house and I'll clean up the truck because it's full of bugs and things, as you would imagine. And we'll do a walk around, I'll show you all the new modifications I did, and I'm gonna take this to scale too and get an accurate measurement of weight. My guess is that it is 6,000 pounds is kind of what I'm anticipating it's going to weigh back there. Okay, let's talk about what we have here. We have a 2023 Chevy Silverado High Country with 4-wheel drive. It's a crew cab, 5-foot bed. We have the Duramax diesel on there as well. I did not get a chance to wash it, so you can see it in full glory. And we have lots of sponsors, so I'm gonna make sure to go through all my sponsors. First of all, AmericanTrucks.com, Eckler's Classic Vehicles. Those both have sponsored. We also have more sponsors as well. We have the Fab 4s. This is the bumper I installed. See a video on that as well. This is actually color matched to match the dark ash on this truck. I have a Warren winch, 12,000 pound Warren winch that's connected to some D-rings that Warren sent me that are right here. I have the winch is back in there, as you can see, and then you access it through here, and there's a hookup back in here for the wiring, or you can do a Bluetooth connection and Wi-Fi with that as well. That's that hookup there. I have some fog lamps coming. I tried some that was sent to me, not quite working, so we're gonna work on that a little bit more. Nice little WeatherTech bug guard on the front there as well. We have fuel wheels, and these are wrapped in Firestone Destination tires. That is an additional change. Inside right here is a PPE aftermarket transmission cooler. Now that's going to be attached to a new PPE transmission fluid bypass valve, and we have the larger additional 2 quarts oil pan that we installed in that as well, and a PPE rear differential cover as well. Come around the sides. I'm going to show you inside the truck real fast. A couple details on here. We do have the Banks iDash here, which you've seen some videos on this. Really handy for details, regen, status like that. I also, and I've talked about this very much, but I also have this guy. This is the Banks Pedal Monster or Power Monster, whatever they call it. It changes your throttle response. I've been playing around with it, and frankly, well, I don't think it's much benefit on this type of truck. I think you had a heavy duty truck where you need a lot more performance offline, things like that. You want to change it from like set up to be towing to set up to be more sport performance. That'd be helpful, but in this case, not really loving that. I have some Proven Ground floor liners as well. Okay, now one more thing inside the cabin I forgot to show you was we have a part from 404parts.com sent me the replacement piece for this charger here. My truck did not come with a wireless charger. I got a $50 credit, whatever the deal was. And then you slide it in there and boom, it should start charging here, right there. So wireless charger in the truck as well. Took care of something that was not from the factory because they didn't have the parts. So that's nice. Very, very nice. It's nice when things work as simply as that does. And then come around the back. I use this a lot. This is a Bouget RV cooler. It actually keeps things cool. You can set temperature right here and have this plugged in. There's a 12-volt plug-in in the center console there. On the sides, we have the Firestone Ride Right air suspension setup with the airbags. That's built in. You can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's underneath here. And then we have the decked cargo slider there. This you see many videos on. This pulls out and you can use it for a variety of purposes. I like pulling it out and putting stuff on it. And yeah, really helpful. I really like that quite a bit. And then we have the Weigh Safe. This is a scale that tells you how much tongue weight there is. I somehow cracked it, so improvement there. But I'll show you what details this does at 1,000 pounds. So it's about 600, 700 pounds. And the reason for that was I made a change. When we first hooked up my 62, we had the tires up here a little bit more, had a lot of additional tongue weight going down, and I used air suspension to raise it up. I didn't like it, so I moved the truck back a little bit, and this is sitting more level actually, coming back a little bit more. Some of the tongue weight's off, and so I have distributed my load a lot better. Inside of this, we have the American Racing wheels, Firestone and Destination tires. This is some power steering that I just had installed as well on this truck. This truck went through a whole powertrain restoration, I should say. And so we'll see some of the details here in a minute. I'll play you a video where I walked around this at my dad's place in Michigan. It's not quite as loud as it is out here. So I'll show you that video I showed about the engine work got done. These are some Holley LED lights as well. These are really cool. Actually plug in. You don't have to do any sort of different hookup. No driver, no anything like that on the old LEDs. This just plugs right into the halogen lights and now they're LED lights. So that's pretty cool. And so yeah, then we have the trailer and that goes around. And so yeah, let me play that video with Swede. That's basically what we have on this truck for all the sponsors and everything going on. So hey, thank you sponsors. There you go. 350 V8 made it to a 700 R4, new drive shaft, new wiring harness, new everything. It's a 375 horsepower actually engine, and I believe if I do this right, there we go. Everything brand new. Additional fan here. We have American Force tires, or rims, Fire Destination wheels, cat skin interior from So Express, steering wheel, automatic transmission. Yeah, that is the new Swede. And one final special touch, radiator overflow. Yeah, now that looks good. Well, let me explain this trip. In that, I left last week from Geary, Nebraska. It's in the Panhandle, the very western side of Nebraska. It's a 1,200 mile, about 1,100, 1,200 mile trip to Michigan, up in Flushing where I'm staying. And so I stayed. It's 20 some hour drive. I split it into 12 hours and 8 hours. And so I stayed in the Quad Cities or Moline on the trip out. And now on the trip back, I stopped in Omaha, and that's where I got up this morning at about 5 and hit the road, because I like waking up behind the wheel and getting on the road before anybody else gets up, especially with the truck with the trailer. I was able to get the gas stations easier in Omaha and get out of town, making sure I have plenty of fuel. What I was surprised about, and let's talk more about this, is the diesel exhaust fluid. That's been a big surprise in this trip. So diesel exhaust fluid, as you may or may not know, is a liquid that is shot into the exhaust combustion process, and it neutralizes some harmful pollutants. It's how we're able to keep diesels in the United States and still meet the EPA requirements. In my research on this truck and talking to others is that they have said that this engine specifically, uses a lot of diesel exhaust fluid. And so this fluid is something like that you spray into. You can buy at the Walmart. I can buy $10 of diesel exhaust fluid. Usually comes in a 2.5 gallon container. This truck has a 4 gallon DEF tank, which is a little inconvenient that you have to buy 2.5 gallons and have some leftovers to have it fully filled. A little inconvenient. But what I want to talk about is I just used another complete jug of DEF fluid, and it says I have 785 miles of range left with that, and I'm not even full. And so I'd gone to Walmart before I left and bought a $10 jug to put in the back of the truck. And so I was full. I drove. I used that. Had to stop at the gas station on the way out and buy some more. I used that. I stopped at a gas station in Michigan and I filled this thing up. And then I get to the other side of Omaha, or I'm actually not in Omaha, near Grand Island. I'm probably 30 miles from Grand Island. I had to put more in. So the Michigan one, I wasn't able to fill up. I filled up all the way, had a little bit coming out, so I let it be, and had about a half gallon left in that container. I put it in here. I put 2.5 more gallons in here, and I'm not even full. And luckily, I have 786 miles of range, whatever told me DEF, and I have 320 miles to go. So the challenge with this is that I don't stop at Walmarts on my trips. I stop at gas stations. Well, gas stations are notoriously high for diesel, as they're trying to make a buck. I totally get it. So I've been spending between $20 to $25 for 2.5 gallons of DEF, and I've gone through 4. So I have 50, 75 plus, let's say $10 a gallon they got from Walmart. I have $85 I've spent on DEF fluid on this trip. That's not great. So I would tell you, if you're going to get this truck and want to go towing, and towing a lot, I would stop at Walmart. I would put a couple jugs behind in the back seats or something, and just keep them on you, because that would really cut down on some of those costs. I should have spent $40, and now I'm looking at double that because I had to use gas stations, and I wasn't able to find the gas stations with a DEF pump built into it. The public, or the non-commercial stops I've done, even though stopped in Illinois at a fleet kind of hookup for diesels, parked next to semis, always kind of fun. I wasn't able to find the gas stations with a DEF fill-up. So if you have the gas stations with, you can get diesel fuel and DEF at the pump, you won't have the same issues I had, where I had to go inside and buy it and get more and keep more. So DEF usage has been rather surprising, and I'm surprised how much DEF I've had to put into this. Now, it's the cost of doing business for me. I'm not too worried about it, but I can see people who are going to be towing with this and going, man, I got to stop for DEF again. I got to stop for diesel exhaust fluid again. And what's frustrating for me was, as I talked about, I just got on the road. I was planning on stopping in Grand Island, which is 17 miles away, but I couldn't make it. I had to stop and fill up now, which means I have 317 miles to go and 311 miles of range on the truck, which means I have to stop again. And that's a little irritating to have to stop one time. I was hoping just to make it home, but I can't, so I have to stop in the time for fuel. So let's talk about fuel economy. That brings us to the next topic. So currently I am averaging, and I'll put this on the screen, 13.3 miles per gallon. Let me get it up here. So I'm averaging 13.3 miles per gallon. I will tell you, on the way out, construction zone, turn my speed limit down. On the way out, I had 15 and a half, some of that range, mile per gallon. So this, on the way back, I'm going straight west. And if you know this area, typically the wind blows from the west. And so I would imagine I'm not only going uphill from the Mississippi to my house, I'm also going into the wind. If you know geography, I'm going up to about 3,000, 3,500 feet. So I can see where the fuel economy would be less. So somewhere between 13 and 15 in that range of where you're driving. The issue I have is not the 13 miles per gallon. You know, cost doing business, I'm towing, I get it. The problem I have is it's a 24-gallon tank. It's I've had to stop more than I'd like for fuel and for DEF, and so I think those are the two big takeaways. And there was one time when I was driving out to Michigan that the system said, "Hey, alert, alert, fuel's low," and my Banks iDash actually flashed in my eyes and then fuel low. Looked down, and son of a bitch, I was low on fuel. I was really getting near E, and I hadn't even noticed it because it was sucking fuel. I guess sucking fuel so fast, I just was kind of cruising along, listening to a podcast, and I had to pull in the gas station in Iowa. And the gas stations, of course, the pumps are full, and I had the trailer, so I can't do the flip around and get to the pumps on my side that were actually available. I had to wait to get into the right spot, and also diesel is often on some of these gas stations only on the outer pumps, and so I had to basically turn the engine off and sit there and wait for the truck to move. And then fortunately I was able to get in, and the guy in front of me actually pulled his rig with a trailer as far as he could so I can get my line of diesel fuel. And thank you for that, by the way, if you're watching that video, which I doubt you are. Thank you for letting me do that, because that was majorly helpful. Construction's over, I guess. So that's been a little frustrating. So I've had twice now where the truck has forced me to stop, once for fuel, and yes, I should have paid more attention to the gas gauge. However, more than 24-gallon tank would have been pretty damn nice. And two, the diesel exhaust fluid, which I'm still not fully filled up, which is a bit frustrating to know that I'm going to have to fill up again at some point owning this truck. So those are the two things on fuel economy, and that's on that. And for example, and by the way, on fuel economy, I've been doing the speed limit. It's the 75, I've been doing 75, I've been doing 80, I've been doing 65, 55, doing the slowing down for the construction zone, which of course summertime construction is everywhere. Okay, let's check the oil. I checked it the day I left at like 3/4 on the line on the dipstick. So let's see, after driving 1,100 miles and towing 1,100 miles, let's see if I used any oil. Of course, it's always hard to get dipstick in when you're on camera. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm down to about this line here. So I used probably 1/4 oil in 1,000 miles, which is actually what GM states is normal, excuse me. GM states that I should be burning oil when I'm towing. It's completely natural. Other engines do it, and this engine does it as well. So that's the status on the oil. All right, so then back to weird things. It's been so funky. There's just weird stuff that goes on with GM vehicles, that I guess I should say all GM vehicles, but I know my brother's been having weird things with his Canyon too, and it's all software related. In that, my phone on an average of, I'm going to say 20% of the time, will connect Apple CarPlay wirelessly. When it doesn't connect, I just have a little phone icon. I can still use my phone, but it doesn't connect to Apple CarPlay. So I can't play podcasts, for example. And when I travel, I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts. So you have to reset the phone completely. So what I do is I turn my phone off, turn my phone back on, and then CarPlay connects. Okay. There's a lot of times I'll hop in this truck and it'll say driver 2 set parameters are being loaded. And my wife I know is driver 2, but I don't know why it's set this way, that I hop in and it says driver 2, driver 1. And the frustrating part with that is a lot of times the seat and the mirrors and things are tied to that set position, and so I'm fighting the truck a little bit. So that's been a little weird. I did learn something. I did learn that the fan, this is interesting, on auto only blows at my face. I know it's a small thing, but I use auto all the time just to set temperature and leave it on auto. But I've had to go in and actually press both the upper and lower button to get my feet and my head with some air manually. So I was doing this a lot the other day, and in auto I didn't feel like my feet were getting any sort of airflow, just blowing right in my face. And so that's a little weird. I'm not sure why that works that way either. Now talking about seat comfort. So it's a 20-hour trip. So I have like 40 hours, getting close to 40 hours here behind the seat, or behind the wheel on the seat, and it's okay. It's not great. It feels like a steel bar on the bottom of my butt that's causing me some soreness. I do actually have a bruise on my butt, my wife told me about, from driving the BMW XM, so I haven't had a good run of vehicles lately as far as seats, and these are just, they're okay. Interestingly enough, my parents own 2 Cadillacs, and they actually own seat cushions, the foam seat cushions for both vehicles. They have to sit on the seat cushions to drive those vehicles. So it's not just this truck, it's GM vehicles overall. I find the seat comfort in GM vehicles to be questionable at best. I bought the High Country because I believe the higher trim levels have a better quality seat. And in this case, I think it's better. I'm not like walking around needing the cane like I did the one time when I had the LT Duramax diesel I drove to St. Louis. This one is better, but still it's not something I'm going to say is amazing for the vehicle. All right, here I am at the public scale. I'm getting things weighed. I have a gross vehicle weight rating, or gross vehicle weight, of 12,240 pounds. That's for everything, truck and trailer. The badge on the side of the truck says the curb weight's 5,668 pounds. I've probably added 400 pounds with accessories, with the bumper and the cargo glide. So about 6,000 pounds is curb weight of the truck. You subtract that by 12,000. I'm towing about 6,000 pounds. So just about what I thought. I did want to show over here this VIN specific sticker. We can see the curb weight was about 5,600 pounds plus additional couple hundred pounds I added for the different accessories. We had payload, conventional towing 13,000 pounds. and then there's all your details on this truck. And if you haven't seen the other videos, I bought this for about $67,000, and one of the keys on this truck is that we have four-wheel drive low, and we have max towing with a trailer, and that's something you don't always get in all the different trim levels of the Chevy Silverado. So those are kind of the things I want to make sure I address in this video, because this will be asked a lot. Now, how is the towing going? How is the truck performing when it's towing? So a few things to point out is that this truck is not stock. I have added a larger transmission cooler from PPE. I installed that, and then we did add more transmission fluid, something I should have done when I installed it. I screwed that up. I also installed a transmission fluid bypass valve, about this big by that tall, and it's supposed to allow more fluid to go to the transmission cooler. So the combination of the larger transmission cooler, which is about 30% bigger than the stock one, and the transmission fluid bypass valve, allowing more fluid to go into that transmission cooler and come back, is basically a heat exchanger. The hot fluid goes up, it gets cooled off, and it comes back to the transmission. So all that means is it's running cold. it's running really cold. Today is 76 degrees, and it's showing 151 degrees on the transmission. That is probably the highest I've seen it. Yesterday I was driving, it was 96 degrees out because it was really hot in Omaha. And man, it was like somebody turned on a hairdryer and just blew it in your face. That's how hot it was yesterday. And so I did 140 degrees for that trip, and now it's 151. And the midway point looks like it's about 180. That's where it's supposed to be. When I first installed that, I thought I was about 190, 200, but then adding transmission fluid and adding the transmission fluid bypass valve, the double hit from that, from PPE, the double addition to that, has meant this transmission is running very cold. And what's interesting about that is that's a do-it-yourself kind of thing. I have an install video on both of those. You can watch them if I remember. I'll link those above. But yeah, you can do those yourself. And running at 151 now, I mean, it's so cool. It's not even, I'm not even concerned at all. And it's going to be a hot one today, probably in the mid-90s. And I've seen this thing where it goes 151, goes down like 120, and I think that's when the bypass valve kicks in. It's pretty damn cool. Now, I also installed a Fab Ford bumper on the front and a Warren winch, which adds more weight on the front. And so there's some questions now about how is that going to impact the driving. Am I still on point driving because I have additional weight in the front? Am I going to be off-center of my wheels at all? I've had no concerns there. This thing drives right straight down the road, and I've had no fighting the tires at all, even the aftermarket wheels and tires I put on. Nothing to write home about that. It's been a pretty good drive down the center. And the heat for the engine heat right now is 217 degrees. And I'm looking at my little chart on the truck, and I'll show you this as well when I get around this corner, is that it's still not half. It's still below half as far as how warm the engine could be at the midway point. And so again, I'm going to finish this corner, and then we will show that on the screen. So that's, so yeah, I'm putting at this right here, that's not even half, it's getting closer, and I have 217 degrees. That's been about, I've seen that down to about 200 at times. I just finished a regen, so you see I have 23 DPF regen. That's 20% of how much the DPF is full, and so it's cooling off a little bit, but yeah, that's what I'm running. And again, 76 degrees right now, but I know it's gonna get hotter today, but I have not had any experience where it's been so hot it's caused me concerns. Even 100 degrees, this thing is running really cool. Now, there's also the question about how it's riding. I do have the the Firestone Ride to Right system, which is a system of airbags, and I have a compressor built in to do those wirelessly. And the cool part is you know, and this is something I don't recommend you're playing with your phone on while you're doing this, but you can actually use the system right now. So I can connect, and I have it set at 40, but if I want to while I'm driving, I can actually play with those a little bit. I had it at 50, and I felt like the rear end was a little bit too high. It wasn't quite level the way I wanted to, and so I raised it. Interestingly enough, when I started off, I was like at 5 psi, which is the minimum, because they want to. You're basically recreating the bump stop. Is what you're taking the bump stop off, and so you want to have a little bit of air in there, so it doesn't smash and smash the airbags. I was hitting some really tough roads. It was really bucking me like crazy, hitting those rough roads, and so I increased the air pressure a little bit because I didn't realize I was a 5, and it rode better. So yeah, it wasn't like an oh my god experience, like oh my gosh, you got to have this for sure installed. It was nice, a nice addition. It wasn't, like I said, a oh my god, you got to have this. But yeah, I think overall I've been pretty happy with the truck. It's pulled really well. It's easy and comfortable to drive as far as visibility and seeing. The seat comfort could be better, but everything else is fine. Windshield's big, mirrors are good. I'm seeing pretty well. I like the fact the camera changes when you make a left and right turn. The whole screen changes here and shows you the left turn, the right turn when you're towing. And yeah, everything is going well with that. And the fuel economy, like I said, was 13 up to 15 depending on how you're driving and where you're driving. And then the DPF or DEF usage was my real complaint, and that's weird technology issues going on there. So what do you guys think? Put your comments down below. Is this something that surprised you with the DEF? Were you surprised with the oil? Were you expecting something different? What about fuel economy? I tend to think that 15 and 13 are pretty good for what I'm towing. I don't know that many gas half tons would do the same, personally. I don't know. Let me put your comments down below. What do you guys think of that? And also, let me know the trucks. Yeah, kind of cool. Do you like the modifications? Do you not like modifications? I'm always interested in your viewpoint on those. So, as always, thanks for watching. Check out videos over here and website down below. And I will see you down the road.